and welcome here to TalkFCB, and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, for another episode of the TalkFCB podcast here today, because honestly, we still got a lot to talk about here, a lot to get through, and there's going to be some big updates in today's video, of course, surrounding the situation involving Dani Olmo and his registration. We're all sitting around every day here thinking, what's the update? What is happening? Why are Barca doing this? Can they ever give us an easy day, an easy life? We're going to find out in today's video. We've also got more discussion on our best friends at La Liga. Not our best friends, not at all our best friends, but hey, we're going to talk about them. We're also going to be talking about Frankie de Jong, more updates this morning on him, and Leroy Sane and Jonathan Tah as well. We're going to be talking about them because don't forget, in the coming summer, we expect things to be better. We expect to operate in the transfer market with more ease. But hey guys, those may be famous last words. Let's see what Barca are cooking up for us, and let's do it together here today. Come on! Because let me first of all kick off, guys, with what is another very important topic, and this is something I've actually wanted to talk about now for a while, the new Spotify Camp Nou. Let's talk about the new stadium and what on earth is happening with the new stadium. Because do not forget, coming into this season here, into this campaign, we were all expecting, okay, we'll start the season maybe at the Olympic Stadium. We've got quite a few away games there. Barca wanted more away games earlier in the season because they expected then to be back at our brand new Spotify Camp Nou, and everything was believed to be well on track. We heard that maybe in November we'd be there, then it got pushed back a little bit to December. You know, is it going to be by the end of the year? Surely by the end of the year, we're going to be back home, we're going to be back in our stadium. Now, that's gone right the way back to February, and here's the thing, it doesn't stop there, it doesn't end there, because honestly, among us here right now, amongst all of us Barcelona fans here, how many of you actually believe we're going to return home this season? How many people here believe, okay, Barca have got a plan, everything is on track, and we'll be back at the Camp Nou before the end of the season? I just don't see it anymore. The way this keeps going back and back and back, and there's real uncertainty, real doubts, and especially about the Champions League knockout stages. Because the thing is, guys, in the knockout stage of the Champions League, you can only play at one stadium. So you can't be like, okay, the first knockout game maybe we'll play at the Olympic Stadium in Montjuic, but then after that, all of the rest of the games will be back at the Camp Nou. You can't do that in the Champions League. You have to tell UEFA by February, okay, we're going to be playing at this stadium and we are not moving. Now, the other issue is because Barcelona as a club here, they were hopeful, they were expectant that we would return home. They've actually told Barcelona City Council, who run the stadium in Montjuic, the Olympic Stadium, the Barcelona City Council own that there. They've already told them earlier on, oh, don't worry, by next year, we'll be gone. You don't have to worry about us anymore. You can go on with planning different things, other events in this stadium, because we will not be there. And the problem now, particularly looking at midweek slots, when there are Champions League games, there are rumours in the media right now that the Barcelona City Council now have made other plans for the stadium. So will Barca be able to play their Champions League knockout matches at the Olympic Stadium, given that right now it looks highly unlikely that we will return to the Spotify Camp Nou? Because when you look at the pictures and videos of the stadium right now, the work that is ongoing, it doesn't really look like it's going to be ready. It doesn't really look as though the trajectory is there to make it back to the stadium this season. And we have heard in the past, by the way, guys, and let me just say this, wasn't there going to be fines for lateness? Wasn't there a case, I read in the media earlier on, many months ago, that Laporta, for every day the stadium was late and it was delayed, there would be a fine there to the construction company. Now, if that was the case, oh, goodbye to our financial problems. We are going to be cashing it in. Maybe Laporta is playing 4D chess. But I don't really think that is going to be the case. But even now, looking at the Champions League games, the rumours about where we're going to play our football exactly, there's been rumours about Espanyol Stadium, about Atletico Madrid Stadium. I mean, surely not. I am not playing the Champions League in Espanyol Stadium. I mean, I guess in some ways it will be funny because that's the only way they're ever going to see Champions League football. But on the other hand, it will be embarrassing, though. We have our stadium. We are Barcelona. We want to be playing our Champions League games at our home stadium. We want our own crowd behind us. These are big games. And I just hope right now we're hearing lots of rumours, lots of uncertainty. This is another issue that Barca have to solve. They have to make sure that they get this resolved in some way, shape or form, because like I say, right now, there are real concerns, which is very interesting, guys, and very relevant indeed, thinking about the new stadium when you go on to talk now about the Dani Olmo situation and how exactly he can be registered and be ready to go for the second half of the season. Because right now, there are 3 different options on the table for Barca, and ultimately, they're looking at all of them. At this stage here, at this very, very late stage, there's a bit of panic inside of the club, and they are thinking, we will do whatever it takes to make it happen. Now, the first option we discussed yesterday there, they do plan still on going back to the courts, despite our first appeal being rejected. That will happen there on December the 30th with a brand new lawsuit against La Liga. But before that, though, and the big news here today is that Joan Laporta now has apparently sent La Liga documentation for the sale of VIP boxes at the new Spotify Camp Nou in order to be able to register Olmo with that amount of income. We've heard a lot about these new VIP boxes at the new stadium. When they are sold, it's going to be for very, very big revenue. That was one of the big driving points behind even creating this brand new stadium. Now, Laporta apparently, whilst he was in Dubai, he agreed these deals here with 2 companies for the sale of VIP boxes at the new stadium. One of those is a Qatari company, and apparently the amount reaches 100 million euros there. So it's a big, big sale. It could be deemed as another sort of lever here, because we are ultimately looking at future revenue. You know, we're not even in our new stadium yet. We're not even back there. So we're already collecting revenue from the future to use in the now. We've seen this, of course, before at Barca. But is that going to be enough? Because the report right now is that Barca are exceeding their wage cap in La Liga by 157 million euros. Apparently right now, the cost of our true wage bill is 583 million, and our La Liga limit is only 426 there. So that is still a pretty big bridge to gap, to be perfectly honest with you, which is maybe why even that there, talking about the VIP boxes, talking about the 100 millions worth of income, that still may not be enough. That's the reality that Barca are being faced with right now. And it's just extraordinary that we're in this position here. We thought, and Barca seemed to think, the Nike deal alone would be enough. And now, how are we here? You know, how did we get here? How did all of this kind of happen and just be sprung on us in some ways? Because now we're hearing as well that Barca could be considering, and maybe in the process, of activating another lever. Now, not even talking about the VIP boxes, that's to one side, but actually another lever entirely here. And what that is and what that may include, you know, I'm sure we're going to learn more about that imminently. But yeah, Barca considering another lever altogether in order to register Olmo and Pau Victor. But hey guys, say all of this is not enough. Say here that Barca are not able to get maybe all of this over the line in time. Well, then it's on Laporta. At the end of the day here, the very third and final port of call would have to be a bank guarantee from Joan Laporta himself and his board. And again, this is something we've seen before, where they effectively have to go and put their own money on the table. They have to put their own money on the line as a guarantee. Because basically there, it doesn't mean they'll pay the difference. It doesn't mean they're actually giving the club their own money. But they are putting it on the table. They're putting it there as insurance in the hope and the expectation that in future, that money will come in and then that guarantee will not be required. But Laporta and the board will need to put their money on the table. They will need to go into their own pockets if and when it comes to that. Which is why right now there is a sense of some optimism within the club. You know, they're not giving up here. They're not sort of feeling defeat on this one. There is a feeling of they've got to do it. You know, they've got to get it done somehow, so they will. In some way, it will happen. And the club believe that Olmo will be registered. Apparently, Laporta has told him directly, we will do this, you know, we will get you registered again, do not fear. Just like they had to tell him repeatedly back in the summer as well. But you know, for me, what's really frustrating, guys, you know, I believe that Olmo will be registered. I think that it will happen. The club always find a way to do these things. But what really annoys me with all of this La Liga stuff as well, I believe this is a massive factor as to why we allow La Liga to get away with everything. And what I mean by that is, you think about the way that Barca have been treated in La Liga, the decisions that we suffer on a weekly basis. You know, some things that we see, we cannot believe it's happening in the league, and yet the club seemingly does nothing about it. You know, we don't hear very strong statements from Laporta. We do not see any statements issued by the club. If some of these things were happening to Real Madrid, they would be shouting about it. They would be using the media. They'd be doing everything in their power to really highlight what was going on. And in my view, I believe here Barca want to get on La Liga's good side. You know, they want to try and actually feel good about Javier Tebas. They want to have a good relationship with him. So maybe they could help us in some way. But that's not even happening either. And I say all of this because a report came out recently that, remember, against Leganés, ahead of that game, Hansi Flick in the press conference, he was desperate to talk more about referees. He did. He actually came out. He did speak about the referees. But he went to the club and he was saying, look, I'm so unhappy. I'm so frustrated about what we're seeing. Can we talk about this? And apparently he was advised by the club, don't go there. Don't really go too far into that here. It's no good bringing all of that up in a press conference. It won't help anything. All they said to Hansi Flick was, you just need to win. You need to finish ahead of Real Madrid, and that's the objective here. They didn't want him to speak about what we're seeing. They didn't want him to speak about La Liga. And I guess I just don't like that. You know, of course we don't want to make excuses. Hansi Flick has said that himself. We don't want to constantly blame other people. But it's not about that. It's about highlighting the things that we're seeing. And I just hope that we're not making life easy for La Liga here. I just hope that we're not sort of cowering away and not fronting up to what's going on, because we want their help and we're hoping that they will help us, because Barca shouldn't be naive. Joan Laporta shouldn't be naive here. They're not helping us. They consistently make our life difficult, both on and off the pitch. And for that reason, we should not be silent about any of it. Which brings us on then, guys, to the potential summer transfer window at Barca. And I hear you ask then, well, how are things going to get easier? How are things going to get better for Barca? Will we ever be able to operate like a normal club? Will things ever sort of fall in our favour? Well, one thing that could help this, it's the situation with Frenkie de Jong. It is his future there. What's going to happen? Is he going to extend that contract? Are we going to be able to renegotiate that deal on new terms, spread it over more years going ahead? Or is he going to leave the club? Because the big update this morning comes from Fernando Polo, a very reliable journalist in Barcelona, who says today that renewing Frenkie de Jong is looking incredibly difficult at this moment in time. He believes there that a renewal, it is very unlikely, that it is not expected to happen. And from what we're hearing now today as well, Barca would be open to selling de Jong in the summer transfer window. Nothing really too much mentioned about January right now, but in the summer for a minimum fee of 20 million euros. 20 million, that's the minimum, of course. They'd probably be looking for more than that if they could, but they would actually accept 20. That is what we're hearing right now. A lot of people are staggered when they hear that there. Frenkie de Jong, 20 million euros. What on earth has happened? You know, a season or so ago, we were talking about 100 million. We were getting massive offers from Man United coming in, but none of it ever materialised. Frenkie, of course, did not want to leave. Barca were not able to sell him, and now we're looking at 20 million. And you know what? I actually believe that. We have spoken before that his contract is running down. In the summer, he will enter the final 12 months, and it's a nightmare situation. And that's why we've even heard rumours of just letting him go. You know, not even getting a transfer fee for him, simply removing the wages. That is the biggest problem at all that Barca have. That is when you're looking at the wage bill, when you're looking at FFP, when you're looking at these restrictions in La Liga, it's all about the wages at Barca. Now, what I would say, and what's interesting right now looking at this Frenkie situation, if he's to get to that final year and he does want to run his contract down, if he is looking, okay, I want to leave for free, I'm not going to move the wages, I'm not really going to make any attempt to leave the club now, I want to leave for free in 2026. What Barca will have the power to do, though, is to actually put real pressure on him. And the way that they will do that is probably what we're just seeing already. Frenkie won't play a great deal. He will not be having a huge amount of minutes in the team. But what's significant about the 2025-26 season is that it's a World Cup year. Now, that is something that massively works in Barca's favour with Frenkie de Jong, and as well, if it gets that far, with Ronald Araujo. These are players that will want to play in the World Cup. They will absolutely want to be there, especially Frenkie. He missed the Euros, of course, last summer with injury. He will desperately want to represent the Netherlands at the 2026 World Cup, and for that reason, reason, Barca have some leverage. You know, they could be like, okay, you want to be at the World Cup, surely then you want to play. And if that's not going to happen here, what are you going to do? So I think they will have some power in the summer here. They will actually have some significant leverage to play with. But what is going to happen? You know, I asked you guys yesterday, do you think that Frenkie will end up staying? Do you think that he'll end up leaving the club or not renewing his contract? Most people said they don't expect him to renew, but would you then see him leave for 20 million euros? You know, would you cut the losses? Would you accept there, okay, let's just get those wages gone. And if it costs us only a 20 million transfer fee coming in, so be it. But would you accept that, guys? That is a big, big question here on the channel today, because then looking further into our summer plans. Right now, we're hearing a lot about Jonathan Tah. The latest reports are that the negotiations are very advanced with him. We are going to be signing him on a free transfer this summer. And again, there's lots of rumours about free transfers here. Barca are looking to tap into that market there, save on the transfer fees, and bring players in effectively quite low cost there. Flick has been very, very involved in that deal. The talks have been ongoing there, with Deco as well involved since November. And right now, he is definitely expected to become a Barcelona player. And with Tah, he kind of reminds me of Andreas Christensen when we signed him, whereby he's a very good centre-back. You know, he's very, very solid. He's experienced as well. He's very good in a specific role. And I think that really works well in a Hansi Flick system. So it reminds me of Christensen in that way. Adding him on a free, it's bringing in a good quality player for a low price. That's effectively what he is. But the big question will be, is he going to replace Andreas Christensen? Are we going to bring in a free agent here who feels a lot like Christensen to actually replace him? Because in my mind, guys, ideally, you know, in an ideal world with the ideal squad, Jonathan Tah would not replace Christensen. He would simply replace Eric Garcia in the squad there, because Inigo Martinez, of course, is set to be renewed. Flick really, really wants him to stay. So you'd have there Pau Cubarsí, Inigo Martinez, Ronald Araujo, Andreas Christensen, and Jonathan Tah. I mean, can you imagine having those options at your disposal? Injuries wouldn't even matter. You could lose two of them. You know, you could have two on the sidelines, one suspended, and you still have two top centre-backs there to be operating with. It would be incredible. But is it actually realistic? Would it be possible for Barca to have 5 top centre-backs at the club all at the same time? Or is this Jonathan Tah deal, and we're hearing a lot about it in the media, you know, they're ramping up the reports here about Tah. Is it possible that we're also trying to put some pressure on Ronald Araujo, with those contract renewal talks, of course, still going on? You know, are we trying to pressure him in some way? There have even been a few rumours that with Tah's expected arrival here, Araujo's renewal is not being given as much of a priority, with Barca apparently concerned by the repeated injury problems to Araujo. And of course, right now, remember, he still hasn't even made his return. Now, he's back in the squad, he is fully fit again, but he is yet to play a single minute now, and won't until 2025 there. So Barca, it's possible, I believe, with a lot of these Tah reports, with his expected arrival too, they are trying to put pressure on certain players. They are trying here to force the renewal, I believe, of Araujo, ultimately making it known that, okay, we're not putting everything on you. You know, we're not absolutely dependent on you as well, because we've been trying to cope and we've been really trying to survive without him all season, you know, for many, many months here, and without Christensen too. We have actually gotten by fairly well up until recently there in our defensive line. So Barca really want to renew Araujo, but they're not going to go above and beyond for any player right now, which is then when we come on to another potential free agent this summer. I want to talk here, and it's a really interesting one in my opinion, about Leroy Sane, because he is fully expected right now to be another one who leaves Bayern at the end of the season. There, his contract expires in the summer of 2025. So next summer, he will be a free agent. And I'm really intrigued by this one, because we know, of course, that he already has experience in the Premier League. Apparently, he doesn't want to go back there. He's not really interested in a move again to the Premier League. His preference would be to join Barca. That apparently is what we're hearing in the media right now. Of all the clubs, Sané would love to come to Barca this summer to play at this club and also to work again under Hansi Flick. Now, right now, Leroy Sané is 28 years old. He'll actually be 29 at the start of January. He's another player who'll be coming in there on a free. The wages would be interesting. I'd be very, very interested to know what kind of salary he'd be demanding. Now, of course, in terms of his profile, though, he's lightning quick. He can play on either side, really. He's actually played a lot of his football at Bayern on the right wing, cutting in there on that very dangerous left foot that he has. But he's very capable too, and I think he's actually much more suited on the left side. You know, we saw him play his best football, in my opinion, of his career at Man City there. On the left, incredibly dangerous 1-versus-1 and really, really effective in behind, of course. A very, very effective player for the kind of style that Hansi Flick wants to play. And the reason that I mentioned Sané here today is I quite like the idea in terms of depth, because I think it's going to actually be quite tricky for Barca to bring in high-quality wingers who actually fit the kind of dynamics that we have in the squad right now. Because obviously on the right-hand side, we've got Yamal. Now, if Yamal is able to play, and if he's fit, and of course, given a certain amount of rotation, you want him in there most of the time. You will want him playing, you'll want him on that right side. He's locked down there in that position. Then on the left, you've got another incredible performer from this season in Rafinha. Now, those two wings, they're kind of locked down right now. You don't want to mess around too much with either of those, but at the same time, you do want quality. You want players who can come in here and who can play either on the left or the right. Now, Sané, for me, is good enough to come in and help the team. He's good enough here to provide an actual impact at Barca and provide quality, but it's almost as though here, he's not that good to sort of expect to be guaranteed a start. He's not that good to be coming in and thinking, okay, I'm going to start over Yamal, I'm going to start over Rafinha, and he won't cost an absolute fortune. You know, you won't pay so much money here that you expect him to play all the time. It will be a case of bringing in somebody with experience, with quality, who fits Hansi Flick's style, and they've got to work for it. They've got to work there to apply themselves, to make an impact, to show that they should be playing. And I think it's an interesting one to keep an eye on there, because it's not always about just signing the absolute best players, you know, filling your entire squad with the top players in every area. You need certain players to fit the squad, to fit the roles that we have, to fit the system. And I think Sané's a one to watch this summer, especially there approaching the end of his contract. With that deal running down, it is a potential market opportunity for Barca. But hey guys, what do you make of that there? Would you like to have a good look at Sané? Would you like to see him at Barca? Do you believe that he could be a success in your team? Or, and this is a really interesting question too, would you have an alternative in mind? Is there another wide player there, another winger who you believe could come in and have the same kind of impact there for that kind of role that we need in the squad? Please do let me know, guys. All of that in the comments down below, and everything we have discussed today, including Dani Olmo's potential registration. I will see all of you very soon. Whenever there's updates, whenever there are things to bring you, I will be here. And I thank you indeed, guys, for all of your great support, for all of you tuning in here today. I hope you're all doing well, but until next time, as always, Vejska, El Barça.